Okay, I've started the audio recording. So, should I talk first or does someone else
Yeah,
want
go
to?
for it. Go for it.
Okay, so we are basically discussing here the topic of reliability of Sunni Hadith, and this is the historical reliability of Sunni Hadith. Meaning, do these go back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and are telling true events or not? So I'll just make my first argument in this regard, and then anyone here can respond. The first argument is from stylometry. Stylometry is basically a method of linguistic analysis to identify the author of a source and to see if it has multiple authors or if two sources have the same author or not. So the argument is very simple. There are numerous stylometric studies done on the hadiths of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, specifically in Sahih Bukhari. These state that these hadiths have one author. Now, why is this evidence for reliability of hadiths? Firstly, all of these hadiths exist in different works, and they even exist in works that were written before Imam Bukhari was born. So, Imam Bukhari cannot be the one author of these works, these words, and these hadiths are present in their exact identical word to word form in other works. So now, these hadiths go back to numerous people, are transmitted by numerous people in numerous times and distant places like Makkah, Kufa, Basra, Damascus, etc. If all of those people were making these hadiths up, these would not have one author. If these were coming from multiple sources, these would not have one author. The only way these can have one author slash source is that they go back to a common person and the narrators are honest. The only common person in all those isnads is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these hadiths go back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the first argument. Anyone can respond.
Yeah. Navi, you want to respond or should I respond?
Um, I guess you can go. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, can you show a manuscript for any of these hadith in the first century or even second century Hijra?
Why do I need to show a manuscript for these hadiths in the first or second century Hijrah? By the way, there is a partial manuscript of Muwatta Malik from the time of Imam Malik himself.
Yeah, 179.
But
Yeah.
even if there
So
is no manuscript, why? Why do I need
yeah,
to show
it
one?
goes to show. So this is just a simple premise, right? If hadith were the cornerstone of the religion, right, we would expect to have hundreds, thousands of manuscripts in the first and second century Hijra. The fact that we only have one folio from the Muwatta of Imam Malik, right, shows that this was not the cornerstone of the religion. This was a later stage concoction of the religion. So the fact that you admit that there are no manuscripts, it doesn't exist, right? We have dozens of manuscripts of the Quran, no manuscripts of Hadith. Even if you look at the history, right, there was zero effort from the Khalifas to catalog or preserve the Hadith. Zero. Not only that, Omar made an active campaign to destroy Hadith. He barred the companions from leaving Medina. He imprisoned several companions because of their spreading Hadith. He barred Abu Huraira from spreading any Hadith. So if the Hadith were essential for the religion, as you're making it out to be, we would expect that foundationally, right, that's what we would see historically, except we don't, right? So the fact that you're making this claim off the stylistic argument that this comes from one source, that's really weak, right? That's not a strong argument. A strong argument would be, look, I have manuscripts going back to the time of the prophets and the companions showing that this has been transmitted. We don't have any of that. It doesn't exist.
Can I respond now?
Yeah, go.
Okay, firstly, the argument from or against based on the manuscripts, that's a different argument from the stylometry. These are independent arguments. You did not address this at all, which was, to be honest, funny. Now I'll deal with the manuscript issue and the manuscripts that we have or don't have, right? So firstly, you are assuming that we don't have manuscripts. That shows that manuscripts did not exist. This is a fallacy. Like, this is a clear-cut fallacy. Secondly, with regards to Umar radiallahu anhu stopping the companions for transmitting hadith, I think Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, that was in one context. You are ignoring all the other times he was asking him for hadith, and all the other companions and the scholars were teaching and writing hadith and all of that. Now, just since you made the point regarding sources, right?
Hey,
Let
is
me
the
go.
audio cutting out, brother people, or is that just me?
Yeah, the audio's cutting out.
Hey, brother,
Audio's
hey,
cutting out
Give
on my
your audio.
give me
I'm
a
making
moment.
out what you're saying, but your audio's cutting out every 2 seconds.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard? I'll try to go back to it.
No, no, I understood what it was saying. It was just choppy, so I get it. You're saying that look, it's a fallacy because you don't have manuscripts, and then you're saying that
Okay,
Abu Hurairah was a one-off case.
no, let me get to one more point in this regard. I'll give a reference from a Western historian, Russ Rogers. He's a military historian, right? This is from his book, The Generalship of Muhammad, page 13 and 14. This is talking regarding the Islamic historical sources in this regard. I'll just read it word for word, and if you want, I can give you a reference or whatever. With these thoughts in mind, are we possibly seeing examples in the critiques of some writers not only a religious bias but also forms of cultural and chronological chauvinism? Why are Western documents such as Tacitus's history or Caesar's Gallic war which are accepted largely at face value, but sources couched in religious constructs so eagerly rejected out of hand? For example, Tacitus's histories are handed to us today are based on a few manuscripts dated approximately 900 years after the time he allegedly wrote the work. Caesar's Gallic War suffers from same problem being based on a few manuscripts dated 900 to 1000 years after the fact. Yet these are almost universally accepted as truly written sources by these individuals and are even considered largely factual. Moreover, if they are the only source for the event, they are accepted as is. Why such benefit or doubt not accorded to early Islamic sources? In contrast to these two Western classics, the materials of early Islamic sources date anywhere from 120 to 300 years after the events described, and these are in written form handed down from previous oral transmission since that time. So this is a reference from a Western military historian.
Okay.
This guy is not a Muslim.
Okay.
Let me just finish this point, then you can respond. This is a Western military historian. He's not a Muslim. This basically refutes most of the claims regarding the Islamic sources and their availability or lack thereof. You can respond.
Thank you very much. So, we look at the most mutawatir hadith or reliable hadith, and the statement that's attributed there is not consistent, right? So, and I have multiple examples of this. So, if we have the most witnessed statement of the Prophet and the quotes are conflicting or even contradictory, then that proves that the entire hadith corpus is without basis and completely unreliable. Because in this example that I'm giving, this is a quote from the final sermon of the Prophet, the farewell pilgrimage witnessed by thousands of people. And there's 4 versions of the quote that are disputed, and they're all considered either pretty reliable or fairly reliable, very reliable, and they're conflicting. So if the most witnessed statement of the Prophet is inconsistent and unreliable, then what does that say about everything else that's at best witnessed by a few people? This proves that the entire hadith corpus is holistically unreliable and inconsistent and cannot be utilized in this kind of fashion with any kind of confidence.
Can I respond now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, let's make the one thing clear. You are talking about the farewell sermon, right? Khutbah Ajatul Wida. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's tagged in the chat. Yeah, so one of them says Book of God only, one of them says Book of God of my Sunnah, and one of them says Book of God of my family, the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house.
Okay, I'll address this contention. I'll address with the problem of contradictions in general and how they're used as evidence against hadith reliability. So, first thing anyone here needs to keep in mind, contradictions are present, minor contradictions are present in every single historical record. Roman, Persian records, Chinese records, it's always there. I'll just to give one example of this. When historical dates of most battles are quoted, right? Numbers. They are always contradictory, slight differences are always there. There's always contradictions involved. So contradictions in and of itself cannot refute the reliability of the hadith corpus. Firstly, even in principle. Secondly, I don't know, I think many of you have heard of this. When Joshua Little was making his video on 20 arguments against hadith reliability, even he admitted that in the Sunni hadith, Sahih hadith corpus, there are very few contradictions. This is there. So I'm quoting an Orientalist scholar who is biased against hadith in this regard. Thirdly, let's look at an example of contradiction, the specific example given, Khutbah Hajjatul Wida, right? It is a really long sermon, right? Whenever any person is making a long speech, right now, the sources reporting it will have slight differences. That will naturally happen. In fact, it will almost inevitably happen. If that is the case, why wouldn't we expect slight differences in what's being reported? This will naturally happen. How does this affect reliability of these, and what's the solution to this? Well, there's a very simple solution to this. What we can do, we can look at all of the reports, look at what's most common said there and what's the addition or a removal from it. This is how we would check what the Prophet ﷺ said. And in fact, this is what Sunni Hadith scholars did. So this contention doesn't work even in principle.
But here's the problem. If we use Hadith sciences and then we confirm contradictory quotes, then we have a problem. So, for example, how long did the Prophet Muhammad
wait, before we even get there, right? So it's like, look, you said a number of things that are just factually inaccurate. You said that, it's such a long sermon. They didn't know, there's going to be slight variations. No, we only have bits and fragments of what he supposedly said. And from those bits and fragments, they're vastly different from one another, right? It's not like, they're all generally saying the same thing with some variations here and there. It's like, no, 99% of it is absent, right? They're not even 100% sure where he was when he gave the sermon. And then from the small fragments, and it's just, it happens to correspond with a major school of thought. It's like, how convenient, right? This all is, the whole concept of this is you're founding your religion on something that's conjecture, right? It's guesswork. You're admitting it. You're telling us, you're saying, look, this is conjecture, this is guesswork. So the question is, okay, what does the Quran say? What does the Quran say regarding guesswork? Bro, are you saying something?
No, I didn't interrupt.
No. This other guy that just joined. Navi,
that's Abdullah's cousin.
Oh, okay. Sorry, brother. No disrespect.
Sorry, brothers. I thought I was on mute. My bad. Mute myself now. So sorry.
Friendly fire. Friendly fire. Yeah. So the concept is you're admitting it, right? From the second you started, everything you're basing your logic on is conjecture. It's guesswork. And we look at the Quran. What does the Quran say regarding those who base their religion on guesswork, right? God calls them disbelievers. We base our religion on yaqeen, certainty, right? The only certain information we have that definitively came from the Prophet is the Quran, period. God tells us, do not base your religion on zan. Do not base your religion on conjecture, guesswork. Right? So if you want to go down that path, right, I think you've already lost this debate because you're admitting, you're saying, look, this is just probabilistic information. It can be highly contradictory. We have to use this hadith sciences to try to muddle through these contradictions.
Can I respond now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here's the thing, you made up some points and I'll address each of them. So the first thing you said that it's based on conjecture, and later you changed the word to probability. It is based on probabilistic sources, but why is that a problem? Here's the thing. What's the claim I made earlier in this debate? I said that these records are more reliable than any other historical records, right? All of those are probabilistic, so these are as well. Probabilistic does not mean conjecture. Probabilistic does not mean unreliable. Firstly. Secondly, you said there are massive contradictions, and they are massive contradictions, and you made another point in this regard. Firstly, I just gave a reference for there not being massive contradictions. Even the Orientalist scholar Joshua Little, who's a major critic of Hadith, he admits there are very few contradictions in the Sahih Hadith. So you have lost the argument there based on that.
No. Bro.
Dude,
I can give you
let me just
hundreds
finish
of
this
contradictions within the Hadith. There's entire
Just let me
books
finish
like
this point.
Ibn Qutayba. No, let me finish. Ibn Qutayba has an entire book, right? You're talking about like 600 pages where it's Mukhtalaf al-Hadith, right? The contradictions, the difficulty of Hadith to address these points. To say that there isn't, is just a fallacy because you misquoted Joshua Little.
How am I misquoting Joshua Little? Firstly, go to his video, 21 Arguments Against Hadith Reliability. Check the sections where he's talking about contradictions. He says that the Sahih Hadith scholars, basically, they have done a great job of resolving these contradictions. It's there. You don't need to take my word on it. You don't need to take anyone else's word on it. It's actually there. So you don't have a case
this
here.
Is the whole thing. So not only did I listen to that multiple times, and I did an entire write-up and an episode on this topic, right? He literally says it's worse than Chinese whispers. So you trying to quote Joshua Little to say that, yes, he said there isn't contradictions is just laughable.
Okay,
That's
here's
the
the
whole
thing.
point of his discussion.
Check his section on contradictions. No one here needs to take my word on it. Go check his section on contradictions. He's talking about contradictions, and then he talks about Sahih Hadith, and basically they have the Sunni Hadith scholars have done a great job of resolving these contradictions. He says this. Don't take my word on it. You don't need to watch the entire video.
We can go to the
Just
source.
watch the section on contradictions.
Let's pull up his exact quote verbatim in context of everything he said.
Okay.
Right?
Let's pull up the section on contradictions.
Something. But again, you have to address the bigger picture, the elephant in the room. You, by definition, right, are following conjecture. You admit it, right? Probabilistic information. That's what you have.
Here's the problem
the
for
Quran,
you.
You're saying we don't. No, stop. You said that we don't have certain information. We do. The Quran. It's called certainty. It's yaqeen. Right?
Here's the
God
problem
tells you,
with that.
God
Look,
tells you in the Quran, do not follow Zan.
dude,
You're following
what's your
Zan.
name? Because to be honest,
Dude.
you are interrupting me again and again, and I don't want to start interrupting you, right? So let's let each other finish our points, because otherwise, what's the point of this debate, right?
Sure, good.
Okay. So let me finish my point, and then you can pull up Joshua Little's video, specifically the section on contradictions, which is what we were discussing. Here is a simple point in this regard. This debate is not whether Quran says hadiths are reliable or not, or hadith should be followed or not. That's not the topic we all agreed to. The topic is, are Sunni hadiths reliable? Now you are making the point that because I'm saying it's probabilistic, it's conjecture. No, there is a clear-cut difference between conjecture and probabilistic framework. In fact, there's a very high probability here of Sunni Hadith reliability, and I gave one argument for it from stylometry, which you didn't address. But let's forget that for now. Let's talk about contradictions, right? So before you bring up Joshua Little's section, address my point on contradictions. Every single historical record has it, and the way we resolve it is by checking at the sources and what most of the people are saying. Again, you said there are massive differences in what's quoted from Khutbah Hajjat al-Wida, even if it is quoted, minor sections are quoted. But that is what would happen. The way to resolve them is by looking at all the sources and seeing what the majority of the people are saying. That's how you resolve it. That is how it happens in any and every historical records. Now you can respond to this point, and after that you can pull up the video of Joshua Little.
Yeah. So again, the fundamental mistake you're making, that is probabilistic information. You're basing a religion on conjecture. God specifically says, you said, look, we appeal to majority. God says, don't follow the majority, right? So everything you're doing basically goes against the Quran. I just want to set that as the framework, right? Secondly, regarding the reliability of this. Now you have to ask, okay, depending on which narration you go, they say there was anywhere between 10,000 to 100,000 people who heard the Prophet's farewell sermon. Yet they cannot say definitively where he even was when he gave that sermon. Okay? This is supposedly the most wide-heard statement from the Prophet. They can't say definitively where he was. So realistically, whatever information we have, the amount of weight we should put on that is virtually zero. Okay? Secondly, you're dealing with a diaspora who have a lot of political factions, religious motivations, who are very prime, right, at basically in the 3rd century, to come up with narratives justifying whatever stance it is. And it's not a coincidence that the four narrations we have, each correspond with a political faction. So you have those who, the Mu'tazilites, follow the Quran alone. You have the Abbasids and the Umayyads who said, no, you have to follow the leader, right? You have the Shias who say al-Bayt, right? Each one corresponds to a faction. Oh, how convenient, right? This shows basically lack of authenticity. Anyone who's going to say, yes, this is a reliable narration, no one takes that seriously, right? Because the whole reason is because there's political motivations. These stuff were fabricated way after. You're talking hundreds of years after. If this was the case, you'd say, look, there's 10,000 to 100,000 people who supposedly heard this statement. Not one person transcribed it. Why did it take 300 years before anyone transcribed these fragments? And they didn't even transcribe the whole thing. It just happens to be the one part that has a political or religious motivation to it, right? All this smells of fabrication. This does not smell of authenticity.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, when you're saying that these statements correspond to the certain political motivations, you are making an assumption that people made these up to fit to their political motivations. An alternative view, a simpler view, is that the people have these political motivations because this is what Prophet ﷺ said. Now, in regards to contradictions, I pretty much addressed all of it. And again, you can bring up Joshua Little's video, specifically the section on contradictions, later in this regard. But just to refute one point, because this is your main argument now, that these hadiths were made for political reasons. There's a very simple refutation of this, and this is actually a massive argument for reliability of hadiths. Why are there so many hadiths in our Sunni historical records and in the Seerah that are praising Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu and his family? These hadiths are not narrated from Shia sources only, these are in Sunni sources as well, all over the place. Now, if the Umayyads are making up hadiths, why would they make up hadiths that praise Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu and his family again and again? If the Abbasis are making up hadiths, why would they make these hadiths up? These are against their interest. And in fact, this is not the only case. There are numerous things in our historical records that simply would not have been made up by fabricators. There is no way around this. You have all heard of criterion of dissimilarity, right? I can just, from Christian historical studies, the criterion of dissimilarity, if it's used, and I've actually seen Joshua Little use it against hadith as well at times. It was wrong, but I'll explain that if you want later. If the criterion of dissimilarity is applied on hadith, most of the hadiths are automatically reliable for very simple reasons. For instance, so many hadiths from Sunni sources are praising Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu and his family. There are so many things in our military historical records that simply would not have been made up by fabricators. Thirdly, you were saying that, so this is a massive argument for reliability of hadith. There is simply no way around this. Last thing you said, that these hadiths were basically written 300 years later. That is a simply false claim. In fact, that claim is refuted by scholars such as Gregor Schuler, and even if you read the books of Harold Motsky, he's realizing that they are written works earlier on, that the scholars who are collecting hadiths early on, such as in the early 2nd century, such as Ibn Jurayj, Imam Mamar bin Rashid, they are writing hadiths, and they are even earlier written sources such as Imam Zuri. So you don't have an argument here. Moreover, just let me make one point.
So look, the fact is there is 0 manuscripts, right? If you claim otherwise, please produce the manuscripts, right? It's funny, everyone loves to quote Motsky regarding this, but that's about it, right? Because no one takes it seriously. The reality is, it's like, look, we have a gap of hundreds of years. Now, if you're going to say, hey, it's because of the absence of information, doesn't mean that it's not there. Why do we have so many different manuscripts of the Quran? And then also, why is it that the history is adamant that the earliest, basically, believers, they made an active campaign to preserve the Quran and no such effort whatsoever to preserve the Hadith, right? If this was the cornerstones, this was the thing that everyone was basically, rallying around, you would expect it to be in the historical record. It's just not there. Now, you keep basically hand-waving across the contradictions. Like, look, I'll give you an example. So we already saw that the most widely stated statement by the Prophet that was heard by some 10,000 to 100,000 people. They don't know where he was, and they only have this small little fragment that corresponds with their political agenda, right? Not only that, you look, what is the most mutawatir hadith in the entire corpus? There's one hadith. Are you familiar with this?
I think so, but you can respond.
Which one is it?
If I'm not wrong, and I could be wrong on this, the hadith is that whoever reports a lie from me.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so are you familiar? This is supposedly narrated by some 70 companions and stuff. Yet, and it's one sentence, one simple sentence. They don't know if the word deliberate is in that statement or not. Right? Meaning that the most widely transmitted hadith, a single sentence, they cannot get right. And depending on which understanding you go with, either that anyone who lies about me or anyone deliberately lies about me is going to give you a vastly different theology. And there's thousands of these hadith that we can go through to show that they're not just different in wording, they're different in meaning. So to say that the hadith is reliable, that's your whole claim. You've yet to prove any reliability to any of this. Prove a single hadith, just one. Because if the most mass transmitted hadith is unreliable and the most widely heard statement from the Prophet is unreliable, how less reliable is anything else in this entire corpus? If your entire purpose is to prove the reliability, you've utterly failed up until this point.
Okay, I'll respond to all of this again. Firstly, the point about contradictions. You are not addressing what I'm saying in this regard. The contradictions, firstly, are there in every single historical source. Secondly, pull up Joshua Little's video, the third section, which you have written something on, right? In the third section, he's saying there are very few contradictions in the Sahih Hadith. Thirdly, with regards to sources and presence of manuscripts, you said that I just brought up Moltke and I'm hand-waving it. No, I brought up Moltke and Gregor Schuler. Moreover, Moltke is one of the most authoritative Orientalists regarding Hadith in the West. So you can't just dismiss it. Fourthly, you said that these written collections of hadith or writing of hadith is not mentioned in our historical records. That is simply a lie. Why? Look at Mustafa Al-Azmi's book. He gives more than 150 examples of early written hadith records. In fact, we have one such early hadith collection, Sahifa of Hammam ibn Munabbih. So you don't have an argument here. You are factually wrong on this. There is no way around this. Moreover, you said I have not given any evidence of or arguments of hadith and I have not convinced anyone. You did not respond to the stylometry argument I gave. You did not respond to the fact of criterion of dissimilarity argument, such as all of the hadiths that praise Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Anhu that are mentioned in our historical records that are from Sunni sources. Abbasids and Umayyads would not have made these up. So you are just in denial about these facts. Moreover, you are not addressing my responses to these arguments. Your claim regarding sources was that we don't have early manuscripts. Yet, in response, I gave you a reference from a Western military historian who mentions that this is not a problem. And he's not just giving his conjecture, he's comparing this to what we have of Western historical records. You don't have an argument here because of this. Now you can pull up Joshua's little video on contradictions, the section on contradictions, or something else if you like. Go ahead.
You done? Yeah. So my argument wasn't the fact that there aren't historical sources claiming that people wrote them down. My argument is that A, there is no manuscripts. B, when we look at the history regarding the deliberate effort from the Khalifas, there was zero effort from their part to preserve or catalog the hadith. There was a deliberate effort to destroy and subvert the spreading of hadith. That's my point. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the argument. They say, oh, look at all these writings and sources and stuff. It's like, okay, then produce one, right? Because everything you've said so far is just talk, right? You haven't produced anything. You haven't verified or basically authenticated a single hadith, right? Let's start there. Prove a single hadith from the one that I mentioned. Again, the most mutawatir hadith. One sentence. Tell me which one is the correct statement. Prove it definitively. Because this concept of saying, yes, people wrote down the hadith, so what? So what? Who cares? That has no bearing. You have to prove the authenticity of hadith. You've yet to do that, right? You haven't proved the authenticity, you haven't proved the reliability, and it has no authority within the religion. So again, if you're willing to actually do any of these things, by all means, please, I'm waiting.
Okay, firstly, you are saying that right now that you are not saying that whether it's mentioned or not in our historical records, and instead you are just saying where are the manuscripts. This is a false claim. You said earlier in this debate that why are these not mentioned in our historical records, and I gave you a reference of 150 such works
No,
being
bro.
mentioned.
Stop. No, you're deliberately, either unintentionally or intentionally, twisting. I've said it numerous times. There was zero effort, right, from the Khalifa, from the officials to catalog and preserve the Hadith. I don't doubt Abu Hurairah is there writing Hadith or whatever. That's meaningless to me. Some random person writing down stuff has no bearing on me, right? I'm saying there was no official effort, right, for the first century to catalog, write down the Hadith. Okay? So if you want to refute that claim, go ahead. But don't make a claim that I didn't make and say, oh, I refuted it.
Okay, this debate is being recorded. I won't talk anymore on that particular point. Anyone can go back and watch the debate, right, when it's uploaded. So I don't need to repeat this point. Secondly, with regards to there being no official effort in this regard, I'll just give a very simple refutation of it. There are references in our historical record. I don't have an exact number, but there are reports regarding this. Either Hazrat Abu Bakr Raziyallahu Anhu or Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Anhu. One of them collected hadiths like in written recording, but they burnt them later because they weren't sure of this. So these reports are there. Anyone can look these up. I don't have exact numbers right now, but these reports are there. So this factually refutes the claim that there was no effort made to collect hadiths. Firstly. Secondly, you said I did not give any evidence regarding this. I gave two arguments for reliability of hadith, the stylometry argument and the criterion of dissimilarity argument. But let's ignore those for a minute. I'm not taking them back. They are powerful arguments. Let's go to another argument. There are solar eclipse. There are two solar eclipses mentioned in our historical record, early historical record, right? One of them is the time of death of Ibrahim Raziallahu anhu, the son of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another is mentioned when Hazrat Umar Raziallahu anhu died. This date is in our historical record, and it is mentioned there that a solar eclipse took place at that time. We can look at historical solar eclipse data from NASA, and we can prove that the solar eclipse took place at the exact same time. So this is a very specific and powerful proof for the reliability of hadith in this regard. There is no way around reliability of hadith in this regard. There is simply no way. You can respond.
Yeah, it's laughable to say that, hey, look, there was a solar eclipse, therefore this thing that happened at this specific time with these specific people saying these same statements, therefore that's true as well. This is the challenge with probabilistic information, right? From a high level to say, look, there was a person in 7th century Arabia, he lived at this time, this location, like, okay, but on this time, at this date, it doesn't even say that. It says this individual ate a shoulder of lamb and then he performed his salat without doing ablution, right? The probabilistic outcome of that scenario actually being true is way less than saying, yes, there was a person who lived in 7th century Arabia. You're making a claim that, look, there was a solar eclipse, therefore all the statements regarding this hadith that are contradictory to one another must be true, right? One does not equate the other. Go ahead.
I didn't make that claim. I said that this is evidence for reliability of hadith, and this clearly is powerful evidence because this is a specific event at a specific time that is mentioned in our historical records and that we can confirm from independent data from NASA. There is no way around this point, firstly. Secondly, I can give numerous other examples from the archaeological record regarding this. There is no way around this point. Thirdly, again you are bringing up the point about contradictions. In that case, in any case of contradictions, as I mentioned earlier, and with any historical record, what will we do? We will look at all of the sources, we will look at what the vast majority or majority of them are saying, and that will be true. There is no way around this. Moreover, that's one thing, that's how we will resolve this contradiction, right? There's another point to be discussed here. Does this prove hadiths are reliable or not? And this does not prove the unreliability of hadith, because this is present with every historical record. In fact, if the Sunni hadith scholars were honest, we would have reports like this. If they were dishonest and making all of these things up wholesale, like many Orientalists and many of their followers claim, then we can expect perfect uniformity everywhere. But that wouldn't happen in genuine, authentic historical records. That will never happen. So this contention does not work. Now, you can make one more point regarding contradictions or any other point you like, because then I would like to move to another argument.
Yeah. So look, the mistake you're making, you're seeing that these are slight differences in wording. When we're talking about contradictions, it means they're completely opposite statements. They can't both be true, right? One basically negates the other. So when we're saying that, hey, the farewell sermon, it's not like he made, these are just slight differences. They contradict one another. Now, I'll give you a list, a bunch of hadith, right, where they're contradictions to one another. So, for instance, the Prophet says, hey, do not put one leg over the other when you're laying down. And then it's like, oh, we have the Prophet. He's laying down and he has one leg over the other. The Prophet says, anyone who's drinking while walking should vomit immediately. And then we have another hadith that says the Prophet was drinking while walking. So it's like, it's rampant with contradictions. To try to act that, oh no, these are just coherent and stuff. It's like, no, these are debates that they're having either politically, religiously, regarding these matters, and they're fabricating these hadith to support one case or the other. That's a problem. That shows lack of authenticity. What you're talking about is saying, hey, yeah, there's some different takes, some different angles of this and that. It's like, no, these are basically, and this is exactly what Joshua Little says, these are fragments of arguments that people are posing to one another to refute certain claims. And the whole joke is, for every hadith, there's an equal and opposite hadith. Now, do you want a whole list? Do you want to go through these one by one? How do you want to do this?
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, if you go back in the discussion, and anyone can watch this, I did not deny there were some contradictions in the hadith. I never said that these can all be reconciled. I never said that. There are some minor contradictions in the hadith. Secondly, in regards to you bringing up this point with regards to contradiction again, we have had an old discussion on this topic. Thirdly, okay, open up Joshua Little's video, specifically the section on contradictions in hadith. Like, you can open that if you want right now. I don't have an issue with that. Fourthly, now, since we have been talking about this for a while, I want to go another argument for reliability of hadith. This argument is basically on the reliability of isnad, specifically comparing, this is an argument for reliability of authentic Sahih Sunni isnads. So, basically, what we know in our historical records, right, there are a lot of the main Sunni hadith works, the Sihah Sitta, and even the other more authentic works such as Musnad Ahmad. Vast majority of them have authentic isnads that are recognized as authentic by Sunni scholars. Right now, you don't have to agree with that, that they are authentic or not, but what we can agree on, that at least the Sunni scholars recognize these as authentic. Now let's compare these with the Shia hadith works. The most authentic Shia hadith book is Al-Kafi, right? Most Shia scholars will admit at least 60% of that book has weak isnads. Here's the claim from Hadith Rejectors, Orientalists, and etc. in journal. All of these isnads were made up, right? And it was really easy to fabricate isnads. The argument is very simple. If Sahih isnads, authentic isnads, are easy to make up, right? Are easy to fabricate, why didn't the Shia fabricate all these isnads? If they could fabricate, right? If Sahih isnads could be made up as easily as Orientalists and their followers claim, then we would expect the Shia hadith books to be filled with authentic isnads. But that is not the case. Most of those are weak. This shows that authentic isnads could not have been made up, and hence this shows the reliability of Sahih isnads in the Sunni historical records. You can respond.
Sure. So to recap, okay? We have no written documents. Okay. We have a deliberate effort for basically no cataloging or preserving of the hadith from the first four Khalifas. Okay, we have an active campaign from them to basically remove hadith, to destroy hadith, to tell basically his people when they're going to the different lands not to spread hadith. Okay, so I have this other one. So I put it in. This is from Hadith, Muhammad's Legacy in Medieval and Modern World by Joshua Brown. It says the companion Wathila bin Asqa had admitted that sometimes the early Muslims, let me finish, sometimes the early Muslims even confused the exact wording of the Quran, which was universally well known and well preserved. So how, he asked, could one expect any less in the case of a report hadith that the Prophet had said just once? Al-Hasan al-Basri is reported to have said, if we only narrated to you what we could repeat word for word, we would only narrate 2 hadiths. Okay? Everything shows that, again, this is unreliable information. Okay? Here's another one. So this is Ibn Majah. Although the author Ibn Majah seems to have tried to include reliable hadiths, some later Muslim scholars noted that as much as 1/4 of the book's 4,485 narrations are actually unreliable. You know, you keep claiming that these are reliable, except there's no basically confidence in the fact of the reliability or authenticity of any of these. Again, the most mutawatir hadith, unreliable. The most statement from the Prophet that's the most heard by any human beings in his life is unreliable. Okay? And there's more, right? These things are not helping your case at all.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay, with regards to again contradictions in these hadiths, contradictions and some differences from reports don't make a particular hadith unreliable. You can say it is reliable again and again, but it is not going to change the reality of it. It's not going to happen. Secondly, picking up statements out of context from the Sunni historical records in many cases does not prove the reliability of unreliability of hadith. You can take any statement out of context, that doesn't change that. Thirdly, you said there was no effort to compile hadith from Hazrat Umar from the 4 Khalifas. I gave a specific example of narrations. Hazrat Umar Anhu or Hazrat Abu Bakr compiled hadith, but they weren't sure about whether hadith should be compiled or not, or written or not. Compiled is a different thing, written or not. So I think they burned it. These reports are there in our historical records. There is simply no way around this. As far as the effort to collect hadith and write hadith, again, I mentioned the 150 reports of different works from first and early 2nd century. So you don't have an argument there. I think your last point was that let me just finish this point. Your last point was that these hadiths reflect efforts at fabrication, or that people were making up these hadiths for their own personal interests, right? This cannot be the case, and I gave a very specific reason for this. All of the hadiths in Sunni historical records that are coming from Umayyad, Abbasid and Sunni sources that are praising Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Anhu, there is no way around this. They would not have made these up, and if people could tamper our historical records, these were the things that would be removed first. This is the problem with your claims. There is no way around it. Now you can respond to this point, and after that we can give a closing statement, and I have to go there.
So what's funny about this quote saying that Umar, he contemplated it, but what was his verdict? Right, his verdict was basically to burn it, to stop the spread of it, because he saw what happened. So I'm going to quote from Tabari. It says, "Be exclusively devoted to the Quran, diminish the annotations of Muhammad." Right, we have numerous accounts of Umar basically stopping the spread of hadith. So this concept that, he contemplated it. Yeah, well, what was the verdict? The verdict was that he was highly against it. Right, if you read Bukhari 114, when the Prophet's on his deathbed, and he says, "Give for me a piece of paper that I may write for you, something that will cause you to never go astray." What was his response? His response was, "The Quran is sufficient for us." Right? This shows that his entire take was the fact that they did not want to spread and disseminate hadith. So the claim this is somehow supporting you, that he contemplated it and then flat out rejected it and went hardcore against it, does not help your case. Right? Again, you've yet to prove single hadith You're making this claim that, it's reliable. By what standard is reliable? Let me ask you this. What's your falsification for determining something is unreliable? Because you don't accept the fact that there's a gap of hundreds of years. You don't accept the fact of the testimony of their own people saying that it's unreliable. The fact that it's on conjecture. So what do you need to see for you to be like, okay, they're telling me it's unreliable?
Okay, can I respond now? I'm responding to these points, and then we can just have a closing statement if you want, and then I have to go. So just to respond to these points, firstly,
Unleash the beast.
who was that? Okay,
I think it was a soundboard.
Okay, I'll just respond to this point regarding me not accepting their statements. There are numerous statements from them in regards to reliability of hadith that are showing hadith to be reliable. Just taking one or two out of context or just saying there are some fabrications in the hadith, that does not make the hadith unreliable as a whole. That will never happen. That does not make sense. Firstly. Secondly, you said that all we have is Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Anhu contemplating collecting hadiths. That's not true. He did collect them. He was unsure of regarding this topic. That's why he later burnt the hadiths. But he clearly thought hadiths were important. That is why he ordered collection of them. And others companions were using hadiths as well. This is all mentioned in our historical records again and again. Now you can say that they are unreliable, but here's the thing. You need to give evidence for them being unreliable. You can't just say they are unreliable and hope people to accept it. Again, the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. You have to give evidences for your claims, and you are not doing that. As far as the claim about fabrication, which was other than contradictions your main argument, I gave one refutation of it. All of the hadiths that are praising Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Anhu and his family, you never addressed it. You didn't address the stylometry argument. You did not address the reliability of Isnad's argument that I gave from Shia hadiths. It seems you are just dodging all of that and just putting all your stock in contradictions, and even then you are not addressing what I'm saying. And here's the thing. Quote Joshua Little's video. You can open up his video, specifically the section on contradictions, and we can all listen to it right now. He's saying a similar thing to what I'm saying in this regard. Quote, bring up his video, we can all listen to it if you want. Other than that, again, I think I've proven all my claims and I've refuted all of yours. If you want to do a last word on this, you can do that, and then I'll stop recording of the debate and then go.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. Just need to pull something up. Hey, McClicken, you there? You got the snippet where he straight up says it's worse than Chinese whispers, right?
Why the snippet? Why the section on contradictions? That's what we agreed on, right?
Yeah, I can post the screenshots of that gun right now.
Yeah.
Let's open the section on contradictions.
Stop. Brother. You said your piece. It's my turn, okay? So, look, Joshua Little straight up says that it's Chinese whispers. If you want to say that he says there isn't contradictions, it's like, okay, well, look, there's tons of books, mukhtalaf, that are going against the contradictions in the hadith. And this is the whole concept. It's like, look, no written manuscripts of hadith, right? We have dozens within the first century, hundreds within the first 2 centuries, okay? We don't have any. The only one we have is one folio of the Muwatta of Imam Malik. And even then, what's funny is today we have 16 different transmissions of that, the Muwatta. We don't know which one was the actual one from him. So again, no written sources whatsoever. That's highly problematic, right? If you look at Bukhari, it's about 400, 500 years. 1150 is the first full manuscript of Bukhari we have, okay? This is not something that you could say, oh, yeah, the reliability of this is great, okay? No effort from the earliest Khalifas. Please show me some reliable source showing that the earliest Khalifas actually made any effort to catalog or preserve the hadith. You failed to do that, okay? Not only that, you admitted, yeah, Umar, Abu Bakr, and Ali, they all burned hadith. So they weren't going around basically trying to catalog it. They did not do this in the context of the Quran, right? They made a deliberate effort to preserve
That
the
is a
Quran.
lie.
The fact
I
that we have
said
hundreds. Let me finish. Okay, you already made your closing comments. Okay, we have hundreds of years of gap between basically when the Prophet died to when the compilation of the Hadith. Anyone else who says, look, there's hundreds of years, now I have all these narrations, and we're talking about millions of narrations, no one would take them seriously, right? The most mutawatir hadith, unreliable. The most the most widely heard statement from the Prophet, supposedly, unreliable, right? I didn't even get to the tashahud. Right, the tashahud, we have 6 different narrations to what was supposedly said. And each one claims, this is by Ibn Masud, that it was taught to them no different than the Quran, unreliable, right? Nothing you've shown basically proved the authenticity or the reliability of hadith. Basically, all you're saying is like, look, we have these compilations, and even then what's funny about that is there was a deliberate campaign in the turn of the millennium. You can read Jonathan Brown's canonization of Muslim and Bukhari to try to reduce the scope of hadith because it was getting so outlandish. You know, if you read Tariq Bukhara, it says that Bukhari himself went through 10 million hadith, right? This is insane. You know, to say that any of this has any reliability, to me, the only argument that you made was regarding the style of speech. But even then, I guarantee it's easily refutable, because how is it possible that you have the same statement, again, with all these numerous contradictions?
I'll just make one point regarding this, because this is an important one. You said that I said that Abu Bakr and all the Khalifas burned hadith. I never said that. That was just about Umar Raziyallahu Anhu. So that's a factual lie. Secondly, you did not address all of the arguments I made earlier. Now you bring up one more regarding there being 10 million hadiths, right? I'll just make a short point of this, and then I'll end the recording and go basically. Here's the problem with that.
I'll read the hadith about Abu Bakr.
Let me just finish my point.
Right?
Dude, let me just finish my point.
He had a compilation of hadith, and he burned them all, right?
Why can't you let me finish my point? Right? Just let me finish my point. Okay, with regards to the massive number of isnads, Orientalist scholar named Nabia Abbott actually pointed this out. These isnads would be there if Sunni hadiths are transmitted as we say they are. Why? Let's suppose one companion narrates one hadith to 10 people. Those 10 people each narrate the same hadith to 10 people. Those 10 people each narrate the hadith to one hadith to 10 people. Now you have 1,000 isnads. This is how the massive number of hadiths will be there. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. Look,
right? So this is
let me finish my point.
Azami, okay? So this is quoting from Bukhari.
Why can't you let me finish my point?
He says it because you're lying. It says,
how am I lying? I can give you a reference from Nabia Abbott right now.
This is Bukhara. So listen.
How am I lying?
I wrote from over 1,000 teachers, and from each teacher over 10,000 hadiths. I remembered a chain for every hadith that I know. This concept that he just had the same narrations from different chains is flat out wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
In his own words,
it is exact. I'm sorry. How are the words of Imam Bukhari contradicting what I said? Just explain to me.
He's gone through 10 million hadith.
Right? Yeah, and so each different isnad is a different hadith.
Only a handful of hadith.
Each different isnad is a different hadith. In fact, this is what Nabia Abbott admits.
No.
Yes,
I understand
this
what
is
you're
how
saying,
it is.
But this isn't what Bukhari is saying. That's what I'm telling you.
You don't know what Bukhari is saying. Here's the thing.
I'm reading basically a hadith quoted from him.
Go ahead, read.
I just read it. It's right there, right?
Okay.
It says, I heard
Can I respond now?
Bukhari. I wrote from over 1,000 teachers. From each teacher, over 10,000 hadith. I remembered a chain for every hadith I know. Right? This guy claimed to have written over 10 million hadith, that he memorized the chain for every single one.
Okay, I'll respond to this.
This claim that it's like, it's the same hadith, just with different isnad is just flat out wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
Tabarani claimed to have over 1 million different hadith, not just chains.
Can I just respond?
So this claim that you're saying, just make an accurate statement.
I am making an accurate statement. You are assuming that hadith means in what Imam Bukhari is saying.
No,
Each
no,
statement is
no,
with
no.
different words.
Brother,
But this is
his
wrong.
own statement.
Here's the
His
thing.
own
You don't need to
statement.
take
That's what I'm
my
saying.
word. Yes,
This
we are
is
looking at his own
you.
statement. You don't need to take my
Yeah.
word on this. This is why I'm quoting non-Muslim Orientalist scholars in this regard.
No,
They are saying the same
yeah,
thing
but
I'm
I'm
saying.
quoting, brother. I'm quoting Bukhari himself. I'm not quoting some scholar who's trying to reconcile Bukhari's ridiculous statements.
They are not
That's the
trying to
difference.
reconcile Imam Bukhari's statements. They are
Yes.
looking at the historical records. Like, I
You
mean,
are making no. This is the whole thing. Like, look, the fact that
this
Bukhari
is
is
the
saying
whole
he
thing,
went
right?
through 10 million hadith, right?
I'm
He's
just
claiming
bored
he's
now.
gone through 10 million hadith. He's written